Hello and welcome to Green Queens,
the perfect podcast for imperfect environmentalists.
We are your hosts. I'm Imogen and she's Abbie Dewhurst.
We certainly are, and I don't know if you can see, if you're just listening to this, then you're missing out because the sun is naturally hitting my face. We are lit by actual, what feels like spring sunshine. Hallelujah.
Oh, do you know what it is? We're recording this on a Wednesday. Everyone will know that this particular Wednesday, where in some areas of the UK it's hitting 16 degrees C, that people are going wild. And as they should. We deserve this after a tremendous amount of rain.
We so deserve this. Are you able to enjoy some of the 16 degrees? How's your week been?
It has been a busy week. I've had many shoots and many late nights as a consequence. I will be driving to Plymouth very shortly. I'm doing a shoot on Great Western Railway. I'm interviewing some train drivers tomorrow.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I will be able to see the weather, but not necessarily experience it. How about you?
It still helps bolster your mood a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah, I've been busy, to be honest. I can't even think doing what in particular. But it makes a difference, like nipping to the car. Like I do it like an IT podcast, as well as this one, which is to be launched very soon, actually. And just transitioning from home to car to studio, it makes all the difference. I had to do a food shop, car to shop, and then shop back to car to home. Oh, glorious! Everybody's happy.
Oh my gosh. So yesterday I had a shoot and it was in London, and there's quite a lot of travelling between destinations in London, and we went on the Uber boat down the River Thames.
Did you?
And in the sunshine, it is phenomenal. I know it sounds so obvious, but it just improves everyone's mood so astronomically. And you're so right, not having to wear an Arctic waterproof and thermals just to get to the car. Oh, yeah. What a treat.
What a treat. Yeah, so you were in London and it was TBC as to whether I was able to also make it down to London. I was not. And you went to see something that I therefore was not able to see. So do tell.
Yes, and if you're observing that Abbie and I are getting straight to the point, it's because we did far too much gassing off mic, and now we're paying the price because we have a meeting after this. But many people, I'm sure, will have seen on social media that there has been a new fountain in London called the Fountain of Filth. And this has been put in place in order to kind of bring attention to the Channel 4 documentary or docu-drama that's been launched this week called Dirty Business. Now, we'll obviously put some pictures up of this fountain, but if you can imagine, you're walking past it, it looks like a very normal, old, quite ornate fountain that you would expect to see in London. And I could hear people talking about it as we approached it. They were like, oh my God, is that new? Oh, I haven't noticed that. Oh, is that permanent? As you approach, you realise that the fountain is made up of a number of individuals, around, I'm going to say, 12 individuals, and they are all appearing to vomit sewage water from their mouths. It's very visceral. It's very uncomfortable, and it's a really, really powerful installation, clearly sort of demonstrating the impact of sewage spills and how that can make all of us unwell. So super glad that I got to see it. And I think, hopefully, we're going to include a voice note in this episode from one of the people that's actually modelled in that fountain as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to butcher her surname. I think it's Sophie Hellyer or something is her surname.
I think so.
I mean, yeah, she's no doubt going to intro herself. Hellyer, I'm going to go with, who is a surfer and model, and I followed her online for years. She's just a very cool girl, like intimidatingly cool. She just always dresses so well. And also I just think surfing is so cool. If you can surf, then that is amazing. But she was actually really, really unwell in hospital, lost tons of weight a few years ago after essentially experiencing what is portrayed in this docudrama, Dirty Business. It was on Channel 4. It aired on Monday. It will be on For Demand. You can watch it, 3 episodes. You and I have both watched the first 2, but we are essentially 99-year-old grandmas and we can't stay up past 10 p.m. So we will report back on the 3rd episode. But Sophie, who we're going to include a voice note of shortly, will explain her story. And like you say, she is actually one of the people that is modelled in this fountain, and she's been posting about it online. And what's been actually amazing, you and I both knew that this was happening because we kind of got a heads up from a PR company. Channel 4 have been promoting the docudrama for a while now, and the clips have been dropping and stuff, and it's been getting quite a lot of good press. But what's been amazing is that I have seen people that I didn't even expect to know that this was happening post about, particularly about the fountain on social media. It's got a lot of people talking. It's meant that the Surfers Against Sewage, we had them on the podcast last year, a really great interview with Danny Jordan, who no longer works there, but has been a part of this whole campaign for many years. If you haven't listened, would highly recommend going back and listening to that episode.
Hello, Sophie Hellyer here. So, when I was 17, which is over 20 years ago now, I was on the British and English surf team. I was national champion. I was surfing every day. And one day I went surfing and I woke up the next morning and I couldn't breathe. I was in hospital for over a month. I had pneumonia, pleurisy, empyema, lung abscesses, and I nearly died. I was very, very poorly, and I believe it's because I got sewage in my lung, dirty seawater. The beach I was surfing at had a sewer pipe, and the predominant southwest wind just brings all of that sewage back into the bay. It's been an issue for a long time, and the problem's only getting worse. Nowadays, I work as an open water swim coach, and I used to own a surf school, so the sea is very much part of my life and who I am. It's not just a place I visit. I'm an ambassador for Surfers Against Sewage. So Dirty Business aired on Channel 4 this week. It's a 3-part docu-drama about the sewage scandal in British waters. As a little kind of stunt activation to raise awareness for the show and the issue of sewage and dirty water, and not just dirty water, but the dirty business and corruption going on behind it. I was part of a project called the Fountain of Filth. It's an art installation, a fountain in South Bank in London. And I was 3D scanned as one of the figures on this fountain, vomiting dirty water. It's quite a confronting statue or fountain, but yeah, I'm really hoping that it doesn't just spark outrage and that it also brings about some meaningful change. Let's hope, eh?
Well, I'll just, for the benefit of everyone who hasn't maybe seen Dirty Business on Channel 4, which you must do, that is your homework after this episode, but a little bit of context. So, Dirty Business follows two unlikely detectives in the form of Ash, who is a retired detective, and Peter, who's a retired professor of computational biology. They're neighbours in the Cotswolds, and they start to observe sort of sewage pollution in their local river and are pretty upset by it. And in their sort of using their expertise, they kind of end up investigating this in a little bit more detail. Peter, armed with his computational biology knowledge, actually runs these really in-depth AI models that he builds, and it exposes where water companies, and in this instance and in their area, Thames Water, are just continuing to spill raw sewage into the water. It also follows the story of the Preen family, and specifically Heather Preen, who in 1999 died when she was just 8 years old from E. coli 01507. What's the correct? Let me just get this correct terminology.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it was after swimming in the sea while she was on holiday. Was it Taunton that she was on holiday?
Dawlish.
Sure,
So,
that's it, Shoreditch.
Yeah, so E. coli 0157. So you have these kind of two parallel stories, and then as you go through the story, it exposes actually just this complete negligence that exists and pervades in these water companies, and how they are simply not structured to prioritize the people and environment for whom they should be serving ultimately, and actually really highlights the systemic challenges of how these organizations are financed and how the execs are, incentivized and motivated as well. And it is emotional. And I think my personal take really was that we had that interview with Danny Jordan. She used to be director of campaigns for Surfers Against Sewage, and she provided that context so beautifully, so eloquently. But it was still numbers.
Yeah.
And then when you watch this story unfold and you're seeing people be ill, be angry that these people are not listening to them and are not affecting change, and actually gaslighting in a really serious way in many instances as well, it's really upsetting viewing, I think.
It brings it to life in a whole different way. Because like you say, I remember at the time when we had that chat with Danny Jordan, looking at the Surfers Against Sewage, they have a map, a live map on their website and app, the Safer Season Sewage app, I believe, where it's a live tracker and you can literally see where spills are currently happening, how many discharges there have been in the last 24 hours. In fact, I think you can go back and look for the last 3 months or something. And I remember like kind of becoming a bit obsessed with it at the time. And then as time goes on, you know, life gets in the way. You go back to walking your dog by the river and not even really thinking about it. But this has brought it to life in a whole different way. I think also in that, like, okay, it's not ideal, absolutely, to know that, for example, we have, I was going to say where it was then. I actually don't want everybody knowing where we live. We have a sewage plant quite near where we live. Won't say the name of it. But we can see that it has had spills in the last 24 hours. We've had no rain for 3 days, so that definitely shouldn't be happening. But there has been a lot of rain to start the year, so maybe there's some sort of relevance there. I'm not 100% sure. But we have also swam in that river quite a lot, and it's close to a sewage plant. And part of me thinks, what were we thinking? But then the other part of me thinks, why shouldn't we trust that our rivers don't have shit in them? And this, I think, is actually where a lot of people, that's where their heads are in the program. When you watch it, it's so relatable because you're so like shocked and shooketh, but also like outraged. You feel stupid. And that's what I think was really interesting, is that the family, the poor parents of this little girl that died, were made to feel like they were to blame for allowing her to swim in the sea
on holiday.
Oh, it is hard hitting. It is hard to watch. And also I think there's an element of, we watched 2 episodes last night and then both of us were quite like agitated off the back of it. It's not the kind of thing that you want to watch right at the end of the night, I don't think, and then try and drift off into a lovely sound sleep. It is hard television, but it's important television.
You definitely need something light and fluffy to watch afterwards. Recently, when things have been hard hitting, I've been saving up the Winter Olympics, but that sadly has ended. But it's really uncomfortable viewing, in part because it's not often on TV, unless you're watching something stupid or gory or whatever, where you see poo. And I can't even believe I'm saying the word poo. I'm quite upset by it.
And sanitary towels.
And sanitary towels.
Which
it's
again,
disgusting.
Why are people flushing them down the toilet as well? That's never what you shouldn't do that. But also, like, that isn't the problem. The problem is that then the sewage companies are putting it in our rivers and seas.
But isn't it interesting? Because I had the same thought. My first thought on seeing a sanitary pad, I was like, well, you shouldn't put those down the toilet. And then I was like, no, they shouldn't end up in the river. That's the thing that we should be focusing on here, rather than instilling blame on individuals.
Definitely. It's a really, really important watch. And I hate to say, it's a bit like when I say, you know, I actually interviewed somebody earlier today from a sustainability team in IT. But interestingly, we had the same kind of narrative around when the weather is extreme, when our roads are really suffering because it's rained so much between the last potholes being filled and now, when we're breaking records in terms of high temperatures in the UK. It's a shame, but it helps. It helps us to actually get the message across as to what is happening. And I think this is a really, really sad, really important piece of television, but it hopefully helps. There is a Surfers Against Sewage petition that you can sign. Yes. We can link to that below. I've signed it. I made Jake sign it. I'm going to make everybody else that I bump into in the next fortnight sign it. This is important if change can happen off the back of it.
Yeah, and the Surfers Against Sewage petition is really simple. They're asking for 3 things, and I'm referring to my notes here. They're asking, very simply, that public health comes first above and beyond profit of these water companies. They're calling for the end of privatisation of water companies, of which that structure and governance has led to profit being prioritised over people's health. And thirdly, they're asking that actually we really, really interrogate the structure of these companies and the governance structures within them that kind of allow these behaviours to persist. And, you know, I think if there's one conclusion that so often comes from these sorts of discussions, it's that this is a solvable challenge. Technically, we are able to ensure that we don't have sewage flowing into our waterways, but it does require investment in the infrastructure supporting those sewage systems. This is a deeply people-rooted problem, and poor structure and bad ways that people are incentivized within organizations. It is fixable, but it takes a lot of effort, and it requires us to, you know, support things like Surfers Against Sewage and sign those petitions and watch these really important docudramas.
Yeah, I mean, but it is, I'm glad it's happened, and it's really important, and it is a brilliant piece of television. But isn't it kind of mad, a bit like the post office scandal? And that's what I keep comparing it to people, that this huge great injustice is happening, and yet like the way that we get mass intake is by making it really entertaining on Channel 4. It's mad.
Yeah, because I had that same thought. I was like, why do I care about this differently from having watched this thing on Channel 4, from having had the conversation with Danny, which is no shade on Danny because she was amazing. But it does really show that actually for us to feel something as humans and feel compelled to act, we've got to have our hearts hit right in the core. And stories are the most powerful way to do that. And I mean, just watching the anguish on two parents' faces as they look after their daughter Heather, it's awful. And especially like you and I have nieces who are not dissimilar age. It's just you can't watch.
Yeah, and we both grew up holidaying on the English coast. Like we swam in the seas that are, you know, around this very coastline. We potentially swam in seas that had shit in them, and we potentially still are for all we know. So it's so close to home. Like we all know, we've all been on a caravan park in the UK. Like it's just so relatable. And the actors did the most incredible job.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that must have been like, meeting with the families and all the work that went into it. But
I know I'm laughing, but I don't know why this, well, I do know why. This has just reminded me of a story that hopefully kind of lifts the tone slightly. But my oldest sister, phenomenal swimmer, she swam the Channel. Ridiculous achievement.
of course she did. You're a family of overachievers.
Just the idea of swimming the Channel makes me feel sick, but you know, she did it and did it with gusto. But in the build up to that, BBC South Today did some filming with her and the rest of her team, and they had to swim in a river in Oxford, and they all got super sick because of the sewage.
Really?
That was like, well, I don't know, that would have been almost 20 years ago now. But bearing in mind, that was the context that she's a very proficient swimmer. She swam the Channel. I saw her at the end of last week, and it had been half term, and she went to a swimming pool with my nieces who are 8 and 7 years old, or 9 and 7 years old. And they shouted at the lifeguard, "She can't swim." And at which point she had to go up to the lifeguard and be like, "No, I very much can swim." And he was like, "Are you sure?" They were heckling in the background, being like, "No, she can't. She needs armbands. She doesn't know how to swim." She had to then be like, No, I can swim." And eventually it got to the point where she was like, "I didn't want to go there, but I had to say, I've swum the Channel." Okay.
Such a mic drop.
I know, but I also, that sums up my nieces. They are sassy and little gremlins.
Yeah, that is so funny. Imagine having that up your sleeve. That's one of those moments where the minute that something like that leaves your mouth, you have instant regret, and you realise how like twatty it sounds once you've said it. But also, like, good for her. A bit like you with the Oxford University thing. I would have that written on a T-shirt. But we're just not a nation of braggers, are we, the Brits?
Well, also, because he wouldn't let her get the pool until he was sure that she could swim. So she's like, "Oh, for God's sake, this is like extremely embarrassing." But the other thing, I guess, before we go, we've got a recommendation that we want to share with everyone. A podcast that we both listened to last week.
Oh my goodness, I totally forgot about this. Yes, it's so good. And I also just feel the need to mention, well, in fact, I was going to brag, but it's really not a brag because I put it on. This is the Amol Rajan Radical podcast. It's a BBC Radio 4 podcast. Annoyingly, BBC iPlayer puts the visuals on, but their YouTube channel is quite laggy in getting the visuals on. And I really like to watch podcasts where I can. So I put this on and was like, I'm going to go for a run on a treadmill because I was in a hotel. The episode is 54 minutes long. I was like, yeah, I can just try and do like a 10K in that time. What was I thinking? I think I managed about 36 minutes of the pod and then was like, I think I'm about done. I think I got about 6K in. I thought I aimed for 10. I got 6. So brag that I did the run, but also great, amazing interview with Josephine from Sojo, Josephine Phillips.
Yeah, and she also, Amol, if you're listening, because actually this is one that we know that he has listened. So if you are listening, hi, Amol. But Josephine Phillips, she's, as you say, she's the founder of Sojo, which is all around repairing clothes, creating sort of a tech business around repairing clothes in an easier, more accessible way. But she is one of the most eloquent people to paint this picture of how we can fix the fashion industry, but why Do we have a challenge? Where can we feel responsibility? Where can we place accountability and responsibility on organizations? But the thing that I kind of took from it, she was like, fundamentally, consuming a lot of things, for example, fashion, does not make us feel good. But compare that to the dopamine hit that you get with a more mindful purchase, and it's like you will live a happier, more mindful life. And I was like, it's so true. I think about the things that I've fixed or I've invested in or I've been secondhand or found or whatever, and they're just imbued with a different kind of joy.
Yeah. And the whole premise of the podcast is like, Amal kind of asks, what is the radical way that we can change this or fix this? And the fact that at the end of the interview, she literally says, the radical way we're going to fix this is by good prevailing. And it's so satisfying. And the fact that she actually believes, and I don't mean that in a patronizing, condescending way, because I actually believe, like genuinely in my heart of hearts, that we all do want to do good things and that we all do mean well. And like you say, that dopamine hit associated with the better purchases, with the more mindful decisions, like it will catch on eventually to everybody. I strongly believe that fast fashion, and particularly ultra fast fashion, is doing way more harm than good.
And in the meantime, whilst we as individuals can aim to do good, we also need to ensure that these industries are regulated, or the structures are in place that they are incentivized to also do good and make it easier for us all to do good as well.
Yeah, it's a
which we will get
podcast.
into on some podcasts coming up as well.
Yeah, we will. And one of the key things that I took away from that as well, that she kept reinforcing, is that actually we're not to blame. This society, the way that we have been kind of brought up, we have been destined for this always to be the case. And that's a really nice thing to reinforce, I think, because so often the blame is put on us as the consumer and the individual. So I really enjoyed that and would highly recommend. I mean, his podcast is brilliant. Amal is a brilliant interviewer, and Josephine is possibly the most perfect interviewee. And I have interviewed her before, and I can agree that she is.
I was like, could you give me like 20% of your brain and I'd be really grateful. Well, we have to run away to a meeting, very exciting meeting with many things planned in the works. So thank you for enjoying this rather brief edition of this podcast.
Short but sweet.
We've got lots of links, which we can put in the comments, not in the comments, we'll put in the description, and you can treat them as your little juicy bits of sustainability fun homework.
Yes, and we have a really wholesome guest coming up next week, so stay tuned for that. And if you want more Green Queens in your ears, listen back to the Danny Jordan Surfers Against Sewage episode from last year, and enjoy with caution Dirty Business on Channel 4.
And like and subscribe, please.
Oh yeah, that too. See you soon.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Green Queens.
If you did and you'd like to hear more, we'd be so very grateful if you could like,
subscribe, and join the Green group chat for weekly episodes.